Hi, I'm excited to bring you something new today. So, what I always notice is that people use the words positive and negative reinforcement in the wrong way, even on television, even sometimes in books. There is a vast misunderstanding and a widespread misunderstanding of the meaning of positive and negative reinforcement. So, then what do they actually mean? The prevalent misunderstanding is that a positive reinforcement is something that is pleasant and positive, and that a negative reinforcement is something unpleasant, like what a punishment would usually look like. That is not the case. Let me break it down to you. Reinforcement and punishment are concepts of operant conditioning. And operant conditioning was formalized by B.F. Skinner. So this is purely behavioral psychology here. Every time we talk about reinforcement, what we are saying is it is a feedback that is likely to increase the behavior. A feedback that comes after a behavior that is likely to increase the likelihood of it repeating itself. Now, every time we talk about a punishment, we are talking about a feedback that is likely to decrease the behavior. Neither reinforcement nor punishment are in and of themselves implying any positive, pleasant experience or unhappy experience. They're just terms that are indicating whether you are likely to encourage the behavior to repeat or you are likely to encourage the behavior to stop. So reinforcement increases the behavior, punishment decreases the behavior, regardless of how they are implemented. Now, where does positive and negative come in? Anytime it is a positive reinforcement or a positive punishment, all it means is that you added something to the person's life or to the person's experience in order to achieve the outcome of increasing the behavior that they did. So positive reinforcement means adding. And negative reinforcement or negative punishment means you are removing something from their experience in an attempt to encourage the likelihood of the behavior or to discourage the behavior. So in this sense, positive and negative only mean we're either adding something or we're removing something, not whether or not the experience is pleasant. Now, what do we mean when we say we're adding and we're removing things? It's getting very technical and clinical, but here's what we mean. When you add something, whether it is a positive reinforcement or a positive punishment, what you're doing is introducing something to the person's life, usually maybe the child, because we use that a lot in children, and that could mean a reward. So when you give someone a reward that they didn't have before, like a prize or an award, then you are doing a positive either reinforcement or punishment, not because of it being pleasant. You see, it's only because you added something to their life that they didn't have before. And when we talk about taking something out of their experience, as in a negative reinforcement or a negative punishment, what we are talking about is, for example, removing something unpleasant that they had to do from their experience. Like maybe you have to do less chores, or you can skip some classes. It is negative reinforcement or punishment only when you take something out of their experience, but you don't add anything to it. So instead of encouraging or discouraging through giving awards or giving a prize, or giving anything for that matter, what you're doing is you're removing a deterrent to encourage or discourage a certain behavior. So that means we use the word reinforcement when we are encouraging the repetition of a certain behavior. And we use the word punishment not in any negative sense, just in a purely behavioral psychology sense, whenever we're talking about discouraging a behavior and expecting it to start happening less. Now, the way we do it is either by adding a prize or an award or an encouragement, or by removing a deterrent or removing something unpleasant that they usually have to do, that you are now going to spare them having to do it in order to encourage a certain behavior or discourage it. while everyone is likely to get a positive reinforcement example right, I'm going to give you an example of negative reinforcement, and you'll see that it has no implication of anything being unpleasant. So for example, we fasten our seatbelt to make the tone of the car stop, the tone that the car makes to remind us to fasten our seatbelt. That means we are more likely to fasten our seatbelt just so that we can remove an annoying experience, which is that loud tone. That is an example of negative reinforcement. An example of positive punishment is, for example, when a child touches something hot and they experience pain. They experience the burn. This experience is something that was added to their experience that wasn't there before. And the outcome of it is that the child will likely touch this thing again much less. So in a sense, a punishment always decreases the likelihood of a behavior being repeated. And in this case, it is by adding something to their experience, which is that they got pain. Now, mind you, negative punishment does not always mean that we are removing something that is a deterrent in order to help the person, in order to get to the outcome of decreasing a behavior. It is inherently just removing anything from their experience. It could be removing something that they liked. For example, if a teenager loses phone privileges because they broke curfew, then they are less likely to break curfew again because they lost a pleasant experience that they had, which is having their phone. So in this example, a negative reinforcement meant that we removed something that the person liked and not always removing a deterrent. So just to conclude, anytime we use the word reinforce, we mean that we are making sure to encourage this behavior and see more of it in the future. Every time we use the word punish, we mean that we are hoping to get less of that behavior in the future, and we are discouraging it. Now, whether it is positive or negative only implies whether we added something to their experience or removed something from their experience, and it does not have anything to do with whether it is a positive experience or a pleasant experience or a negative, unpleasant experience. Thank you. And if you'd like to hear more of these videos, give me a follow and I'll be producing more of them.